I finally got what a lot of people say is one of the best Batman figures ever made. But is it really good? Let's find out. Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video we're gonna take a look at MAFEX number 105 Batman Hush, the blue and gray version. This is actually a re-release that I got from Ami a few months back, and it was around 70 bucks before shipping. That's not bad for all of us who wanted this figure but missed out on previous release and didn't want to pay insane prices on the secondary market. We also know that City Toys are soon releasing a copy of black and gray version with a gargoyle base, so this is the right time to take a look at this original MAFEX figure. First, a quick look at the packaging. It's a standard MAFEX box with toned down colors, and I like that. We have a plastic window showing the figure and some of the accessories. Here it says Batman Hush, and then we have a promo shot of the figure. Here is how the side of the box looks, and then here is the back with some more promo images highlighting most of the accessories. Here is the other side of the box with a shot of the figure in a simple standing pose. Here is the top of the box, and then the bottom with warnings and information. But now, let's open it up and let's take a look at the figure. Here is the figure out of the box, and I have to say that I was very excited about finally getting this figure. I was actually surprised when I saw the listing on Ami because I had no idea that there is a re-release. Now, even though this figure was originally released back in 2020, it still holds up in terms of design and aesthetics, at least in my opinion. I like what I'm seeing here. One thing I was worried about were potential QC issues, because I remember having problems with my Rogue One Vader, but fortunately there is no such issues on this Batman. Everything is nice and sturdy. He is around 16.5 centimeters tall to the top of his bat ears. His proportions are fine. His legs are probably a bit too long in comparison to his upper body, but that's in line with how Medicom usually designs their superhero figures. All colors on this guy are toned down, like they are washed out, and that's especially noticeable on his yellow belt with pouches. Let's get this right out of the way. The cape. It is definitely too big for this scale. It is too long, as you can see it like this, and just look how big it is when it's spread out like this. Now, while I'm aware that this is an issue for some people, at least from what I've seen online, personally I don't have a problem with it being this large. It is wired, so it's great for posing. It has 4 wires, 2 on each side, and then 2 more here and here. So the posability is fantastic. You can practically do whatever you want with the cape, and because it's tucked in and probably glued in here, it holds the pose. So you can really mess around with it, get creative. You can pose it like it's flying on the wind. It holds when you put it up like this for when he is jumping down on someone. And you can even wrap him in his cape in case you want this kind of mysterious look on your shelf. This wouldn't be as easy to do with a smaller cape, so I really don't mind this one being this big. Here is a closer look at the default head sculpt, and everything looks nice and clean. The eyes are nice and simple. He is frowning. There are these sculpted lines on his forehead. Skin tone is toned down. Mouth is just a simple line painted with a darker color to highlight the lips. We can see the ears under the mask, and then his bat ears or horns that are shorter and kind of sharp, so be careful with them. Here is how the torso looks. Bat symbol is nice and clean. All the muscles are nicely sculpted, and they even applied a little bit of dark gray shading just to give those muscles a bit more definition, more highlight. Same can be said for both arms and legs. And then here are these spikes on the gloves, and even though they are made out of a softer plastic, be careful not to snap them off. Fisted hands are also nicely sculpted, and then here is the belt with all of these pouches going all the way around the waist. These could maybe use a little bit of weathering just to even them up with how the rest of the body is shaded. Boots also have a simple design, and they even sculpted the bottom, and here I recognize a couple of W letters that could be just a matter of design, or they could stand for Wayne. Here is how the back of the figure looks underneath the cape. So overall this figure looks great. I love the simplistic design and toned down colors, and I even don't mind the oversized cape. Let's now take a look at his articulation. The head and the neck give you a nice range of movement. He can look side to side and even tilt the head side to side. This is how far he looks down and then up. He has a nice butterfly joint, and and this is how far arms go across the chest, and here is how far they go across the back. They rotate 360, this is how far they go out. We have a bicep swivel, elbows bend this much, there is a swivel in the wrist, and hands can hinge in all directions. We have two cuts in the torso, the upper one and then down here behind the belt, so together they will give you a nice side-to-side movement and side-to-side tilt. Here is how far he can bend forward and then back. Legs have a drop-down joint, and this is how far they move out. This is how far they move forwards and back. There is a tie cut, double jointed knees, a swivel in the ankle, feet move forward, back, we have a nice toe joint, and a generous ankle pivot. So, as expected, his articulation is pretty good and still holds up even 5 years later. Let's now take a look at his accessories. We get this standard Medicom certificate that guarantees that this is a genuine product. As with all MAFEX releases, we get a MAFEX flight stand, then we get an alternate masked head with angry face expression, with grinning teeth, and this also looks great. I love when we get an action-oriented head that are not locked behind some kind of store exclusive. I'm looking at you, Kyoto, and your Revoltech Arkham Batman. Then we get an unmasked Bruce Wayne's head together with an alternate neck piece. And this is something that a lot of people wanted CT to include in their black and gray copy, but as I said before, I'm sure they will make a copy of this blue version as well, so we'll get this alternate head sooner or later. This also looks fantastic. The sculpt and paint job are both beautifully done. The hair with all of these details. There is, I think, even a little bit of shading, so that's great. We also get a total of 7 pairs of hands here. A pair of fisted hands that we saw on the figure, a pair of open hands, a pair of grabbing hands, a pair of fisted hands with these bat claws sculpted in, a pair of relaxed hands, another pair of fisted hands, but these actually have thumbs separated from other fingers so that you can tuck in the cape like he is holding it. And we also get a pair of hands holding his grappling guns. These have small holes here, and that is where you plug in 2 versions of grappling hook that you also get in this set. There is this shorter one and a longer one. And this is actually a wire that you can bend if that's something you want to do. I don't, so I will leave it straight like this. And again, these can be plugged in like this. And finally, we also get his batarangs. We get a pair of these and a pair of these. And as you can see, they have a different size and a different design. And for Batman to use them, you will need these grabbing hands that have separated fingers, and they will hold these batarangs like this. So all in all, a nice spread of accessories, and we are probably getting all the essential things that we need for a Batman figure. Here is how his unmasked Bruce Wayne's head looks on the figure, and here is how he looks with his alternate angry head. Switching out the hands is also really easy. Here is how the wrist peg looks, and we can give him his alternate open hand like this. So no issues in switching out the hands. Let's now compare this guy to some other figures. Here is how he scales with MAFEX Dark Knight Returns Batman and Superman. Here is how he scales with MAFEX Hush Joker and MAFEX Dark Knight Joker. Here is how he scales with MAFEX The Batman Batman and InArt Dark Knight Trilogy Batman. Here is how he scales with Amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech Arkham Batman and their 1.5 Joker. Here he is next to the MAFEX Classic Suit Spidey and Daredevil. Here is how he scales with the SH Figuarts Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man and Sentinel Peter B. Parker, and then with CT Toys Brown Suit Wolverine and the Amazing Spider-Man, and then with Marvel Legends X-Men 97 Wolverine and Symbiote Spider-Man. Here we have him next to Star Wars The Black Series Vader and Stormtrooper, and then to compare him to some larger figures, here he is with NECA Movie TMNT Raphael and Masters of the Universe Revelation He-Man. Here he is next to NECA Feral Predator and Savage Crucible Veteris Repax, and finally with YOLO Park Transformers AMK Pro Series Optimus and Starscream. So there you go, that was my look at MAFEX number 105 Batman Hush, the blue and gray version. I'm very satisfied with this figure. The way that it looks, that it's designed, the muted colors, posability, accessories, everything is really good and holds up in terms of quality even 5 years years after its original release. So to answer my own question from the beginning of the video, yes, I do see why people love this figure so much, and it definitely could be one of the best Batman figures ever made in a 1/12 scale. I would strongly recommend that you get it if it's available to you, but for a decent price, not for those crazy prices on the secondary market. I don't think that this figure is worth hundreds of dollars. If you can find it for around 70 to 100 bucks, I would say go for it, because the original will always be better than a knockoff. But if you can't get the real one, there is of course CT copy coming out soon. I already said it's the black and gray version without unmasked Bruce Wayne's head, but with a gargoyle base. It will be the same size as the original and it will cost around 30 bucks or euros. But again, original will always be the best. That's it, that's all from me for this video. Now I would love to hear you guys. What do you think about this figure? Do you have the original release, or were you able to get the reissue? Are you one of those who have an issue with his large cape? Do you plan on getting the CT copy? Let me know all of it down in the comments. As always, a huge thank you to my Patreon and channel members for their support. If you can also join and help, please do so. Links are in the video description. And of course, to all of you guys, thank you so much for watching, thank you for being here with me, and I'll see ya in the next video.